Brand new vinyl update. Putting that shit in your face. Spent so much money on a fucking wedding and somehow spent even more on vinyl. Yeah! Rest in peace, my goddamn fucking checking account. And my savings account. Just money in general. It's all gone now. Mrs. Meltdown and myself, if you don't mind me saying, Anna. Mrs. Meltdown. We like our vinyl. And we bought a lot of vinyl in the past 3 months. Far more than I expected. So with that in mind, let's not waste any fucking time. Let's jump into this brand new vinyl update video. First up, we have a record I've been looking for since it came out in August of last year. Sinner Get Ready from Lingua Ignota. Not quite metal in sound, but definitely metal in tone, in concept, and in spirit. This is a heavy fucking record. Emotionally heavy. Emotionally battering. Emotionally brutal. So brutal I had no issue reviewing this here on the Metal Meltdown. This would go on to become one of my favorite non-metal albums of 2021. Its fusion of classical music and pop and noise and avant-garde is spellbinding even without acknowledging the incredible fucking emotional context of it all, even without acknowledging the religious lyrics and the general aesthetic and vibe of the record. It's just remarkable. And it's all especially remarkable on vinyl. Look at that album artwork. Look at how fucking nice that is. Look at all the nice fucking photography on the inside of this. And even on the back. Like, this thing just feels spooky and mysterious. If I didn't know what this was, I would not assume I was in for a smooth, pleasant ride upon picking up this record. It came on a pretty standard but pretty sexy blood red. Not bad. Not bad at all. Extremely happy to finally have this on vinyl. I was looking for it for a while. Admittedly, I haven't listened to it a ton on vinyl, but that is not because I've suddenly changed my mind on the quality of the record, rather because this is just horrifying. This is not something that is getting jammed at the family barbecue or at the wedding party. You know, at the wedding party we watched Deadpool, actually. We didn't even listen to music. We watched fucking Deadpool. Next up, we have Impera from Ghost. There's a good chance you're aware of this album and this band because it's one of the biggest rock records released so far in 2022. I mean, this debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. Sold 70,000 copies its first week. Mostly physical albums, might I add, as in CDs and vinyl, which is fucking unprecedented in this era of digital music. They're about to do a huge stadium tour in the fall with Mastodon and Spirit Box, so yeah, you probably know who Ghost are. Probably. On top of that, every single metal YouTuber worth their salt talked about this album in some fucking capacity. I stand by most of my criticisms for the record, but I think, in retrospect, maybe a 3 out of 5 makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to retroactively change my score to a 3 out of 5. Irregardless, you know, the tunes that are good on here are really fucking good. The production is still fucking stellar. You know, I'm still not huge on, like, Kaiserion, and it definitely feels at times very derivative of a lot of 80s rock, a lot of, like, Def Leppard and Foreigner and Bon Jovi, but, you know, fuck it. I dig me some 80s rock now and then. I didn't pay much attention to the actual concept of the record when I had listened to it those first few times and then when I had reviewed it. Now I have. It's pretty wild. I like the idea of kind of exploring the rise and fall of civilizations and empires through, you know, metal. That's interesting. The artwork is fucking stunning. Vinyl itself is standard black. Don't need a special variant, though. Everything else about this record is already special enough. Still, all things considered, my least favorite record from Ghost yet, but, you know, it's solid. It's decent. Jam it if you have not already. Next up, we have Ants from Up There, the sophomore studio album from Black Country New Road, noise rock, post-rock, experimental rock band. They've been kicking around for a couple of years now. They put out their debut last year to critical acclaim. This one also debuted to critical acclaim. If I'm not mistaken, the singer left the band shortly after the release of this record too, so, you know, it kind of feels like the end of an era to a certain extent, while also being the beginning of a new era, because this record is so wild and so weird and so experimental and so much bigger and bolder than their debut. As far as the vinyl itself is concerned, we've got kind of a misty, smoky, black and blue merger here. Very pretty. Definitely, I would say, one of my favorite records of the year so far, outside of metal. Like, I feel comfortable saying this is one of my favorite non-metal records of the year, alongside another record that we'll actually be talking about in this video. I also went ahead and picked up Black Country New Road's debut album for the first time. That's the actual title of the record, not just me making a point that I'm picking this up for the first time, which I also am. I like this record a lot. I think the sophomore is stronger in a lot of ways, but this is still a solid record. And this one's on kind of like a dark olive green. Very nice. Next up, we have Black Moon Spell from King Tuff, kind of like a garage rock, acid rock record / band. This is something Anna was looking for pretty hardcore. So Anna, you have anything you want to say about this?
Which album is it?
King Tuff, Black Moon Spell.
It's just a really fun rock and roll album. There's a lot of just different elements in there. It does what it wants, and I find King Tuff just likes to have a lot of fun with his music and do weird shit, and it's cool.
Wow! Thank you, Anna, for that brilliant review.
Wow.
Definitely feels like you wrote all that down. And this one also comes on kind of like another smoky blue-white, except a lot lighter in tone. Also very pretty. The other King Tuff record we have was like rainbow or some shit. It was all kinds of different colors.
Yeah.
It was very cool. If you like funky vinyl, King Tuff is definitely the way to go. Here's another one you actually picked up, Anna. Conqueror's Oath.
Yes.
From Visigoth.
Yes.
Fucking super badass, like modern power metal, heavy metal. Every time I listen to this record, it sounds like a fucking warrior queen riding a horse into hell, swinging swords at monsters. Would you say that that's an accurate description?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Nice bright blue vinyl for this as well. Hell yeah. Next up, we have the 50th anniversary edition of In the Court of the Crimson King from King Crimson. One of the greatest prog rock records of all fucking time. Honestly, maybe my all-time favorite prog rock record, period. At the very least, damn near close to the top, alongside, like, Wish You Were Here from Pink Floyd, and I want to say 2112 from Rush. I don't know. There's a bunch of records that come to mind. Point being, this record's fucking fantastic. It sounds fantastic on vinyl. This 50th anniversary edition in particular is pretty great, with some alternate mixes done by Steven Wilson, another prog rock fucking god. Standard black vinyl, don't need a special variant. Loving some of the funky artwork on the inside of this whole thing as well. We also picked up King Crimson's In the Wake of Poseidon. This is also 50th anniversary edition. Alternate mixes from Steven Wilson, as well as a remastered edition of the original record. It sounds fucking stellar. A lot of people prefer this over In the Court of the Crimson King, but I don't know. I got a soft spot for In the Court of the Crimson King, duh. Still an amazing record. Still probably one of the best prog rock records ever fucking made from one of the best prog rock bands to ever fucking exist. That artwork in particular, it definitely has the edge over In the Court of the Crimson King. I mean, it just looks stunning, especially like all folded out like this. Like, this is a beautiful portrait that I genuinely would not mind having hung in my home. Standard black for this one, no special variant required though. Another classic fucking record from a classic prog rock band. Next up, we have a cult classic from the world of 2000s hip-hop and rap. Take Me to Your Leader from King Ghidorah, one of many aliases used by the late Daniel Dumoulin. Some of you may remember him more prominently, more iconically, as MF Doom. Fascinatingly, this was released right around the same time that Daniel as MF Doom and Mad Villain released Food and Mad Villainy respectively, which is kind of insane to me that one guy under 3 different aliases released 3 of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time in the span of like a year and a half-ish. Like, the level of creative genius is fucking unmatched in my opinion. The record itself is pressed on a nice bright blood fucking red, and if I'm not mistaken, there's also kind of like a cutout of King Ghidorah, like the kaiju monster King Ghidorah, that you can kind of put together. Yeah, here we go. So the idea is you'll punch these out, and you'll make a little King Ghidorah, and you'll have little tanks, and little mines, and little fucking nuclear subs, and you can basically kind of recreate the actual album cover here, if you so desire. We have not. I'm shocked Anna has not, because she's got a real soft spot for, like, big monsters and kaiju motherfuckers. So, yeah. Next up, another record from 2021, one of my favorites from 2021, in fact. It was my #1 favorite record of the year, metal or otherwise. And again, Into the Light from Panopticon. Bind Rune finally got this out on vinyl. I've been waiting for this for fucking ever. The fusion of, like, atmospheric black metal and Appalachian folk remains as captivating to me now as it did when I listened to this record for the first time over a year ago, and as it did when I listened to, like, earlier Panopticon records. You know, and even stuff like Scars of Man on this Once Nameless Earth. I love everything that Panopticon has done. I love everything Austin Lund has done. I love this fucking record. I'm so happy to have this on vinyl. Oh my fucking god. I don't know, man. Parts of this record still fucking tear me up, if we're being honest. Like, this record, it's black metal born out of hope and humility instead of, like, hatred and anger and like, the occult and Satanism. It just feels so refreshing. It takes me back to spending the holidays in the Smoky Mountains with my family. It's just such a deeply nostalgic and beautiful record. It's rustic. It's homey. I love this fucking thing, man. I really, really, truly do. And it is pressed on kind of like a green-blue pinwheel vinyl with some yellow flecks. Very nice. Very pretty indeed. Next up, we have Viklingervelgi, the debut studio album from Enslaved, which I definitely butchered. I definitely butchered the name of this album, but that's okay. Great record. Been a long time since I listened to it. Comes on a nice gold vinyl. Hell yes. I got a soft spot for the early era of Enslaved. I mean, all their stuff is great, especially when they start getting into, like, progressive and post-metal kind of stuff, but I mean, this is awesome. The early Enslaved stuff, I just love it. Like, Frost, their sophomore, remains maybe one of my all-time favorite black metal records. Just front to back, an absolutely stellar fucking record. Also picked up the record store variant of Angel Rat from Voivod, which had never been released on vinyl up until this point, if I'm not mistaken. I love Voivod, y'all know that. We've talked about Voivod plenty of times. This is one of their more confusing and experimental records. You know, it's the 90s. Metal isn't really in unless it's alternative, and Voivod, you know, I guess they decided they were done with thrash and prog for a bit because they're going into more alternative territory here. I think it's a cool record, though. And it's pressed on kind of like a dark purple with like a little bit of mustard yellow. I like it, you know? It's not an amazing record. It definitely doesn't beat records like Dimension Hatros and Nothing Face and Killing Technology, but it's interesting. And, you know, it was recorded in a record studio in my hometown of Mississauga, Ontario, so that's also kind of cool, not gonna lie. It's even kind of got, for my Torontonians out there, kind of the same text and font from the old Honest Eds, which is also kind of neat. That's kind of cool. I like this record, man. It ain't perfect, but it's interesting. And with Voivod, you know, Voivod, even at their worst, is still pretty fucking good, so, yeah. Next up, we're going into completely different territory. We're talking about country. Yeehaw music. Specifically, some yeehaw music from Orville Peck and his brand new studio album, Bronco. Not only the best country album of the year so far, probably period, but also one of the best country records I think I've heard in a long time. I love this fucking thing. Orville Peck has a really unique voice. It feels like a mixture of, like, Roy Orbison and Elvis and classic Johnny Cash with, like, a little itty-bitty dash of, like, Jim Morrison's suave and sex appeal. This one, I think, has a more prominent kind of rock, southern rock feel and vibe to it. There are bigger guitars and bigger drums, but it's still a country record at heart. It's got attitude. It's just a really, really, really strong record. Songwriting, musicianship, production, next fucking level, anchored by a fantastic and unique voice. Just an all-around stellar record, much like the aforementioned Ants From Up Here from Black Country New Road, one of my favorite non-metal albums of 2021. 2022. And you know it's got to be good, because I typically just don't like country at all. Not only do I like this record, I bought it on vinyl. That's how good of a country record this is. Go pick it up. Go jam some Orville Peck. If you haven't already, if you're somehow unfamiliar, just do it. You won't regret it. I promise you. Next up, Seven Churches. Debut studio album from Possessed. Legendary proto-death metal band. I would still argue they're a thrash metal band, just to be fully honest with y'all, but there's no arguing this record was a massive influence on the development of death metal. I mean, Chuck Schuldiner has made it pretty clear if there was no Possessed, if there was no Seven Churches, there would be no death. So, yeah, there you go. Irregardless of how you feel about its status within the realms of death metal, Seven Churches is inarguably a pretty solid fucking record. It's aged extremely well. It still sounds like absolute fucking hellfire and insanity. And this is a special record store only version that you will only find in record stores, pressed on a transparent green vinyl. Hell yes. Definitely keeping the neighbors up late at night with this bad fucking boy. Another 80s extreme metal classic, we picked up Deathcrush, legendary EP from Norwegian black metal pioneers Mayhem. As I said in my reviewing every Mayhem album video, this is probably one of my favorite black metal records, at least one of my favorite records from Mayhem. I mean, it's definitely so over-the-top serious that it's kind of silly. I mean, on the inside, there's even a thing like, no core, no fun, no moshing. Like, how dare you have fun? We're serious. We're dark. It's on the back of the record, too, that little, no core, no fun, no nothing. It's so fucking silly in retrospect. It's so fucking silly. The record itself is pressed, I believe, on standard black. Yes, it is. But that's A-okay. Don't need no special colors, because that might be too fun for Mayhem. That might be too fun. And why would we want to have fun listening to music? Somewhat ironically, I do have a lot of fun listening to this record. I mean, it's crusty. It hasn't aged well in some departments, but I still fucking jam hard to Chainsaw Gutfuck, Necrolust, like pure fucking Armageddon. It's not a pretty record, but it is a fun record, despite Mayhem's intentions on making something very much not fun. No core, no fun, no mosh allowed. How dare you have fun? And now for another classic 80s extreme metal record, another kind of pioneering record. Blood, Fire, Death from Bathory. I'm not a huge fan of the early Bathory records. They're just not really that interesting to me. This is where Bathory gets interesting. This is where they get a little bit more ambitious with the production and the songwriting. This is kind of the start of their Viking metal phase era, if you will. As such, it's fair to say that this album kind of spawns Viking metal, that whole subgenre movement and scene. This album has aged remarkably fucking well. Sounds fantastic. Standard black vinyl, but that's okay. No special variant needed. It's just a great fucking record. Now, as fun as it is to travel back in time and open portals to hell with classic 80s extreme metal records like Deathcrush and Seven Churches, I live in the year 2022, and with all due respect, I think extreme metal is in a pretty good place right now. Hence why I'm happy to present It's Time to Rise from the Grave from Undeath, the band's sophomore studio album. There's not a single death metal, extreme metal fan alive right now that is not talking about this album in some fucking capacity. Old school death metal with modern production value, modern ingenuity. It's a fantastic fucking record. It feels like if Chris Barnes had stuck around in Cannibal Corpse and his voice didn't go to shit, but they kept evolving as a band, they might have started putting out records like this. Just all around a great fucking record. I mean, I definitely prefer the more progressive stuff from like Venom Prison and Blood Incantation, and even Gatecreeper I would say has stronger, bulkier riffs. But man, this just hits that old school death metal sweet spot that every metalhead has, whether they want to admit it or not. I would say that this is probably should have been an honorable mention at the very least on my top 10 albums of the year so far list. I jam this thing frequently enough, at least. This particular vinyl variant as well is nothing short of remarkable. Look at that. Look at that, like bright pink and purple and magenta with like white splatter. Look at that. That is fucking stunning. We also have 2 new-ish records from Integrity, American hardcore, metalcore icons, pioneers, somewhat underrated, kind of like Zao or Zao, or however the fuck their name is pronounced. We have Those Who Fear Tomorrow and Systems Overload. These are the recent reissues put out by Relapse Records, drums re-recorded by Igor Cavalera of Sepultura fame. The album pretty much completely remixed and remastered by Arthur Rizek, who has produced music for Power Trip, Code Orange. Most recently, he produced the new Creator record, which was pretty solid. As you can see, they've even redone the artwork. Like, the original album art does not look anything like this. You can kind of make out the... Yeah, let's get the lighting just right. You can get the Integrity skull right here as well, which I think is a nice touch. This one, Those Who Fear Tomorrow, is pressed on like a white, pink, black splatter vinyl. Very nice. Very cool. Very brutal. Meanwhile, Systems Overload, it also has the Integrity skull, mind you. Similar layout, similar packaging. This record, however, is pressed on, well, kind of the same thing, actually, but also in reverse. It's red, white, and black, but there's also a bit of orange, and obviously the red, as you can see, is a lot more prominent. Now, this is a sexy piece of fucking vinyl. And believe it or not, we have come to the end of this particular vinyl update, and thank God, because my wallet is starting to cry a little bit. We have the unraveling of Pup the Band from Toronto pop-punk crew Pup, the only modern pop-punk band that I give a flying fuck about, and not just because they're from Toronto. Although, admittedly, that does help. I came to know Pup through their previous studio album, Morbid Stuff, which was one of my favorite albums the year it was released. I thought it was just an absolutely fantastic piece of pop-punk, so well written, so well produced. I think this is a bit of a step down, but I appreciate this record regardless because it's still very well made. It is more ambitious in some aspects, which I think is interesting for the band. It's still ultimately a really strong slice of like Canadian pop punk. That album artwork is great. I like seeing like a rotted version of it on the back as well. You know, you can get some more kind of gruesome, silly images on the inside. It looks like something out of a fucking painting. The vinyl itself is like a transparent black, but with like some coral pink and purple specks. Very cool, very nice. Exclusive to record stores, by the way. And voila! That's it! Oh my god! What a shitload of fucking vinyl. What an ungodly amount of new fucking music. Jesus, how do I afford all of this? Let me know what new records you've been jamming in the comments below, what records you're on the lookout for, what records you think I should be on the lookout for, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for all of your congratulatory wishes about our wedding, Anna and myself. We're honored, we're humbled. It's really nice to see that y'all care about that, and not just when we talk about how much we hate fucking Machine Gun Kelly or Motionless in White or whatever the fuck, so... Thank you. Y'all are as sweet as fucking cinnamon rolls. Anything you want to say before I log out, Anna?
No.
No?
Nah.
Not okay. She said a little ah. That's all. She's being a silly Billy today. We're going out later too.
Yeah.
She's resting up because we're going out later tonight for round fucking 2 of partying in the city. We hit up like 5 bars yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
Remember that venison carpaccio we had at Zito Zito?
That was really good.
And the fucking we saw that jazz band over at the Oud and Fuzz.
Yes.
Fun nights ahead. Anyways, goodbye. Press this button to subscribe. Voila. You have yourself a fantastic fucking day.